Okay, this is the last in my series of videos ranking and reviewing Elvis Presley's movie soundtrack LPs. So today we've got 2.5 to go through, and the first one we'll look at is Spinout from 1966, aka California Holiday. I suppose it's because the movie is a car movie, a racing movie, that there are a few high energy, fast-paced, fast and furious rock songs on here, including the first two songs, Stop, Look and Listen and Adam and Evil. I like how there's a very short gap between the two songs. Very good bit of sequencing there, and it kind of keeps up the energy levels. Also, the fourth song, Never Say Yes, is in a similar vein, and that song is sandwiched by a couple of ballads, fairly typical mid-1960s Elvis movie ballads, All That I Am and Am I Ready. You can hear a very good outtake of Am I Ready on the Collector's Gold album, and I probably prefer that version slightly to the version on this album. Elvis just changes the vocal phrasing slightly, but I prefer that version overall. All That I Am is probably the better of the two ballads, and in particular I like this part of the vocal melody here.
When you are in my arms, I rule the world, and when we're far apart, how cruel the world.
The last song on side one is Beat Shack, which is a very silly song. I never enjoyed Beat Shack very much until I heard the outtakes. If you haven't heard take one of Beat Shack, you really should. It's quite simply, it's the funniest Elvis outtake of all time, in my opinion. It's remarkable how they managed to get the song done and dusted after just 4 takes, given the pandemonium in the studio at the end of take 1. It also affects take 2 because Elvis breaks down laughing at what he's just done in take 1, but somehow they managed to get a good take 3, and then take 4 was the master take. But yeah, if you haven't heard the outtakes, especially take 1, please check it out. I'll put a link in the video description below to a video where you can hear all 4 takes. So moving on to side 2, unusually the movie theme tune begins side 2, and Spinout is, as far as Elvis movie theme tunes goes, kind of middling in my opinion. It's not great and not bad either. We are, however, back to some suggestive lyrics, for once not written by Florence K.
If she can shake your nerves, boy, then she can strip your gears.
The next song is Smorgasbord, so we're back to silly songs here, but this is one that I've always liked, to be honest. It's always good to have another Boots Randolph sax solo. Coming out of the instrumental break, the song changes key as well, and it's very effective in this case. Elvis himself seems to have a bit more fire in his belly, singing the final part of the song. The final song from the movie itself is, appropriately enough, I'll Be Back, and this is no great shakes, but not bad either. And I think that probably sums up the whole soundtrack for me, the first 9 songs. There's nothing here that I dislike, but at the same time, none of it really blows me away either. However, turning to the bonus songs, it's a different story, because I would say that the bonus songs on Spinout rival the ones on Clambake. These are all very, very good songs indeed. The first bonus song is Tomorrow Is a Long Time, Elvis's first stab at a Bob Dylan song. And Dylan himself was pretty pleased with Elvis's version at the time. He said it was the best version of any of his songs that he'd ever heard. The arrangement was inspired by Odetta's version. Bob Dylan's version, or a version by Bob Dylan, in fact, wouldn't come out until the early 70s, so Elvis couldn't have heard a Bob Dylan version, unless he'd been to one of his concerts. So because it's a Dylan song, there's a lot of lyrics in there, and the song just keeps repeating itself. The music is just verse after verse after verse. But it's quite hypnotic, and I think Elvis manages to pull it off, even though it's over 5 minutes long. The next bonus song is a real stomper, Down in the Alley. It's all pounding drums and wailing harmonicas and stabbing guitar licks. If anybody knows who's singing harmony vocal with Elvis, please let me know. It sounds a little bit like Charlie Hodge to me, but his name doesn't appear on the session logs, so I can't be sure. There were, of course, a lot of singers at that particular session. It was one of the How Great Thou Art sessions. Down in the Alley and Tomorrow Is a Long Time were recorded at the end of one of those sessions. It's the kind of song that I wish Elvis had done more of, actually. And I particularly love the stinging guitar solo in the middle. The last song is I'll Remember You, and this is quite simply one of my favorite Elvis songs of all time. If somebody gave me a CDR and said, put as many Elvis songs on there as you like, but they are the only Elvis songs you could ever listen to from now, ever, then I'll Remember You would be on that CDR, no question about it. It's an absolutely beautiful song. I've loved it ever since I first heard it, and it still gives me goosebumps listening to it to this day. You may be familiar with the longer version on the Essential 60s Masters, I believe it's called, the red box set. I actually prefer the shorter version on the Spinout album. And it's nice to think that somebody cared enough to say, why don't we just make that a little bit shorter? It'll make it better. Okay, let's turn our attention to the mighty King Creole. Pretty much universally considered to be Elvis's best film, but is it his best soundtrack album? 12 songs in the film, and I think Elvis had improved noticeably as a balladeer by the time he recorded this soundtrack. So for instance, if you compare Don't Ask Me Why and As Long As I Have You with I'm Counting on You on the first album, I think he was definitely a more assured ballad singer by that point. There's some good pop songs on here too. I really like Lover Doll. It kind of reminds me of Teddy Bear a little bit. Not quite as bouncy, but just as playful. And I also like Young Dreams, which is a decent little foot tapper. Believe it or not, that was actually released as the A-side on a single here in Japan. Crawfish was also released on a single as a B-side. A lot of people don't like that song. A lot of fans are not too keen on it, but I love it. I like the slightly unusual rhythm that it has, and I like the sound of his voice. I'm not sure if he had a cold that day or if he was singing with his tongue further back in his mouth or what, but there's something a little bit unusual about the sound of his voice. It's really the rockers, I think, that stand out on this song, on this soundtrack, and there are quite a few of them as well. I've always enjoyed King Creole. That's been a part of my life ever since I was a little kid, because as most British fans will know, the song appeared on the Elvis 40 Greatest album, and it actually went to number 2 in the UK pop charts. I think the key of the song is maybe just a tad low for Elvis. I think if they'd raised the key of the song just a little bit, it would have worked better for his voice. But I guess they did it that low because they wanted to make it sound tougher. Speaking of toughness, songs don't come with any more attitude than Trouble. The song in the film, you'll probably remember, Elvis sings, perhaps somewhat ill-advisedly, to his boss, the gangland leader Maxie Fields. And the composers, Lieber and Stoller, they said it was the best of the 3 songs that they wrote for the movie. But they also said that they preferred the version in the TV special. I love both versions myself. Another great rocker on the album is Dixieland Rock. It does what you'd expect it to do. It's a fairly standard rock and roll structure, but rock and roll vocals don't come any better than that. And then basically we're down to my favorite 2 songs in the film. Difficult to separate these two, really, both absolute classics. In the movie, unfortunately, we don't get to see Elvis sing much of Hard-Headed Woman. If you remember, you can hear it from outside the nightclub, and then we cut to inside the nightclub just as Elvis is finishing the song. But what a great song. Rock and Roll 101 or what? Just a superb vocal performance. And the other song that I really like is, well, you know it, I love it, and I hope you love it as much as I do. It is, of course,
Banana. Anybody want banana? Ripe and ready this banana. Come and pick it off the tree. Wee.
And you thought I'd made a mistake saying there were 12 songs in the film, didn't you? I was, of course, including Banana by the Fabulous 49er. But seriously, the other song that I totally love in this movie is this one here.
You ain't been living till you cuddle and cool. Oh, with the black-eyed baby by the old bayou.
I mean, what a fabulous song. I just love everything about that song. The interaction between Elvis and the Jordanaires. I love the brass. It's not in your face. It's just there in the background. And if you haven't heard this song for a while, put on a pair of headphones and listen to the bass line. It's got a wonderful creeping bass line in there. What a fantastic song. And we also have a school song, Steadfast, Loyal and True. Although Elvis doesn't exactly sing it like a school song. I mean, how many kids did you go to school with that sang the school song with vibrato and glissandos? The GI Blues album reminds me of the King Creole album in some ways, in that you have 11 songs, you've got a variety of music, you've got slow songs, fast songs, rockers, one or two slightly unusual ones. You've got a school song on King Creole and you've got a lullaby on this album here. I think Elvis had actually turned it up a notch as a balladeer again by the time he recorded the GI Blues album. He'd already shown us his new balladeer chops with It's Now or Never and Are You Lonesome Tonight and so on before he recorded this album. But Pocket Full of Rainbows is just an absolutely beautiful song as far as I'm concerned. Really top-notch stuff. And as I get older, I like big boots more and more. I think when I was younger, it was a bit embarrassing. You know, I didn't want to see my Elvis singing to a baby. But once you've had babies of your own and you've been in similar situations, it no longer seems embarrassing. It's a beautiful little song. Very much like that one. As far as the pop song goes, they're also at least as strong as the ones on King Creole. In the UK, we had a huge hit single, #1 single. I think it was at #1 for 6 weeks or something. Tonight Is So Right for Love was the very strong B-side to the wonderful Wooden Heart, which was also a big hit in other countries in Europe, I think. And it was also released as a single here as well, not in America for some reason. There are a few rockers on the GI Blues album as well, specifically GI Blues itself, Frankfurt Special, the new version of Blue Suede Shoes, and Shopping Around. I enjoy all those songs a lot, although they are a little bit tame compared to the rockers on King Creole. It's almost as though the hillbilly cat had been neutered. And I do understand how people who had been fans of Elvis's rock and roll music in the 50s might have felt a little bit disappointed when they heard the GI Blues soundtrack back in 1960. But for me, they're both great albums. I enjoy both of them very much. Okay, all that's left to do now is to rank the final 3 albums. If you remember at the end of the last video, we had Loving You, or rather I had Loving You at #1. GI Blues, I'm going to put just below Loving You at #2. That leads us to King Creole, and I bet most of you are expecting this one to go to #1. In fact, this one is going to #1, just above Loving You. And Spinout. Spinout, like Clambake, is quite high because of its bonus tracks, mainly because of its bonus tracks. And I have this one at #4. Without those bonus tracks, I have to say it would be in the middle. And the Clambake's still pretty high in this list. That would be way down, probably just above Kissing Cousins without those bonus tracks. So as you can see, looking at the list as a whole, as the movies were made more and more cheaply, the music also suffered as well. But that's it for this series of videos. If you have any final thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.